was launched by Beacon House in 2000 to engage global communities in conversations that shape the future of schools and societies. I'd like to thank Google for Education, the lead sponsor for SOT 2023, and their partner TechValley. Our titanium sponsor is UBL. Other key sponsors include My Backpack, MK Books, Allied Bank Limited, Habib Bank Limited, and Wateen. We also thank our SOT supporters, including Paramount Books and Nestle Pure Life, who have contributed to this year's event. My name is Aisha Ali, and I am head of school for Beacon House Gulshan Campus, Rawalpindi. Please take a minute to note these important housekeeping points. Please ensure your cell phones are on silent. Entry and exit points are the same. Always stay calm and follow the directions. Please use the SOT app to scan the QR code for question-answer session and for feedback. Share your thoughts on social media using the hashtags, hashtag Guardians of the Future and hashtag SOT2023. If you need assistance, our ushers are here to help you. For questions, please either use the flashcards provided by the ushers or the mobile app. The panel discussion will last for about 45 minutes, followed by 15 minutes of question-answer session. Our session 1 on day 2 is panel discussion titled Mirror or Mirage, Media's Role in Shaping Self-Worth and Society. The moderator for the session is Ms. Iram Naqvi. Ms. Iram Naqvi, with a background in counseling, psychology, and mental health, neuroscience, excels in in-person and online therapy. Her experience spans education with leadership roles in student guidance, counseling, and management in various settings. She initiated a student well-being program at Beacon House School Systems, providing teacher training and parent awareness sessions. Her blend of academic expertise and practical experience uniquely equip her to tackle academic environment challenges. Over to you, Ms. Iram.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to this session. It's something that's very close to my work, which is dealing in self-image and how societal and cultural norms affect that. I'd like to introduce my brilliant panel. I'd like to introduce Ahmer Farooq first, who's to my left. Ahmer is a Lahore-based artist who explores self-identity within societal pressures in Pakistan. His art, infused with Urdu language, reflects complex socio-cultural tensions. Ahmer's interdisciplinary approach incorporates various media and outside contributions, enhancing the essence of his work. Ahmer also speaks about marginalized and suppressed communities of Pakistan. His critically acclaimed pieces have been exhibited internationally and are held in private collections worldwide. He received the Artist of the Year award in 1999. Sidra Iqbal is a celebrated broadcast journalist and policy influencer and is known for championing meaningful causes and addressing real issues. She hosts Aaj Pakistan with Sidra Iqbal, a daily news morning show on a leading Pakistani news channel. With 12 years of experience in broadcast journalism, she focuses on politics, global affairs, and socio-economic issues. She's interviewed heads of state, moderated policy debates, and covered significant events demonstrating deep insights into national and regional security, politics, and public policy. Sidra has received accolades including the GR8 Women Award for Journalism in 2014 and participation in esteemed international leadership programs. Welcome, Sidra. Hamza Tarar, a renowned interior designer featured in Architectural Digest and Florida Design Magazine, is celebrated for his aesthetic sense. He's worked with global brands like Fendi Casa, adorned stages from Art Basel Miami and Isalone Mobile, and played a key role in Dolce Vita home concept. As the owner and creative director of Casa Hamza, he continues to innovate with unique furniture and accessories, having completed over 500 global projects. Tarar is a trailblazer in design and innovation. Welcome, Hamza. So I'd like to begin by asking all of you to think about in your own areas, how much do you think the media influences how we perceive ourselves, what we set up ideal standards to be, and do you have, as artists and as a media person, a responsibility to shape this dialogue or to create or curate a narrative that is more holistic and healthy? Whoever would like to begin. Ahmer, Sidra?
I think for sure media plays a very important role in shaping the society's image, or how we look at ourselves and what's acceptable and not is acceptable. And as an artist, my work gives me a platform to give my narrative on what is acceptable to me, and on a personal level as an artist and as a society. These are the things which are not being picked up by media, but I have a tool to use my art to portray that message on a larger scale.
Okay, thank you. Sidra?
Iram, when we were even having that conversation offline, I think I'm going to start with my personal experience. I think coming into media and being in the public eye was more like a coping mechanism for me. I was a very shy kid, and every time I would be on stage, for example, at Beacon House, doing the annual concerts, or even later on being in the public eye, it was my way to find my bearing, to feel grounded and like I belonged. And for most of my life, I've struggled with feeling, like an outsider. And even in media initially, just like you're saying, and I was sort of recollecting all the moments where I was advised to dress a certain way, to speak a certain way. I initially started with business journalism and politics. So the requirement at that time was, okay, you've got to be somebody who's hard-hitting, ask difficult questions, be serious, be as if you're going to take no nonsense. And from my core of being a polite, okay, I'll let you speak, that was, a far cry from that. So when I look back, I think even in media, I've spent 12 plus years. The first 4 or 5 years was just trying to see, okay, who am I as a person? What am I projecting to the world? And for the initial phase, it was like a put on. That's something I can confess.
Felt that you had to?
I had to do. Yeah. I was too young. I was trying to find my bearing. Your ideas are not that strong. Everybody's telling you how to dress, how to talk. Your makeup doesn't look right. Your hair should be worn a certain way. I did not like that. Thank God when I started media, there was no internet and there was no trolling. A lot of women journalists get subjected to that as well. I mean, everything is a fashion disaster. There's fashion police out there. There's, the only feedback I used to get mostly was, you speak too much English. आप टीवी पे बैठी हैं तो आप उर्दू में बात करें, सबको समझ नहीं आता आप क्या कहती हैं. So it was really trying. Like the first 3 years, I hated television, and I just accidentally entered into it. And my father would tell me, no, you'll appreciate it later. And in those years, I wasn't appreciative. I was hating it because I felt I was under the microscope. Also, I did not feel I could connect with the people who were there to support me. It was mostly in my head, but I was the only MBA, and everybody else had either studied creative arts or they thought that they belonged to the creative field. So I felt like this sore thumb sticking out, the odd one out who wants to talk politics and economics, and it's too idealistic, and it was tough initially.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate that. Hamza?
Well, I think media plays a very important role in setting standards, be it fashion, be it lifestyle, interiors, and sometimes setting unrealistic standards actually, because if you go to these social media apps and you would see these really beautiful homes, and what happens then is that you start setting unrealistic goals for yourself. It makes our jobs more difficult because you cannot have the same kind of a space. Every space cannot be the same. And so by showing that and by showing really unrealistic images online and, setting such standards, it makes not only our jobs more difficult, but also it gives you unsatisfied customers all the time. So that's a disadvantage of it. But at the same time, I think it also creates awareness in people about interiors, because back in the day, when I started working here, I mean, people didn't even think interior design was actually a profession. People would just, you would just take your grandmother's couch and paint one wall red behind it. Oh, it's modern now. So what that did was, over the time, because of the presence of social media, people have learned how, what modern actually is, what is contemporary, what are different kinds of interiors, and has opened up, the industry so much. So there are advantages and disadvantages of it, but yes, media does play a very important role.
Absolutely. So I think, like Sidra was saying, maybe we come back to the core concept of this topic is that when you have all these external influences and you get very influenced by them, is it balanced somehow, and this I'm speaking as a psychologist, by knowing your sense of self-worth, by having some kind of self-awareness, so that when there are these outside influences, you still know where you're coming from, who you are, and how to balance and manage that. And have you felt that in your own journeys, in your own professions? Ahmer, would you like to answer that first?
Certainly, I think it really helps if you know if these external effects are affecting you and your personality or the way you live. Again, my work speaks about marginalized communities of Pakistan and these suppressed community members who have to adapt according to whatever is the acceptable norm of Pakistani society. And even though we don't want to live in a certain way, but we have to project a certain image because that's acceptable by the society. So it takes a toll on you as well. Like for example, my recent show was about marginalized communities and the safe spaces they've created for themselves. Like we have religious suppressed communities here which have created their own safe spaces where they can be themselves, they can practice their religious practices and everything. So naturally it takes a toll on you. There are other suppressed communities as well which get together at their own homes because they can't openly get together and practice whatever they want to practice because not allowed by the society or legally not allowed by the country's law. So naturally it slightly starts seeping into your own personality and you start becoming something which you really not are. So it certainly takes a toll on you.
So it's difficult to be authentic under certain circumstances, especially if you're belonging to...
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think it's not even about certain circumstances. I think because it becomes a second nature to you, that you just become someone else. You just become a generic product of the society and the societal norms and acceptability.
So what I'm hearing from you is that we have to conform and become homogenized instead of retaining our individual independent selves.
Yes.
Sidra, would you like to add to that?
Self का S भी नहीं पता था Iram. Or even when I look back right now, I think 5 years ago I was a different person than I am right now. Even maybe a year ago, I was one of those children के मुझसे कोई पूछे कि what do you want to be when you grow up? It would depend on the last book I had read or the last movie I had seen. I was very suggestible. कि अच्छा उसके अंदर astronaut था, उसमें cricketer था, मैं भी ये कर सकती हूँ. But when you talk about self, हमसे young age में and even the early phases of our careers, whenever you are asked a question, मुझे ये भी नहीं पता था कि whether that, what is my desired outcome of it. And the first time I was invited and I was selected to go for the national debates and I had to travel from Karachi to Lahore, the first question that came to my mind was, अब्बू इजाज़त देंगे? और मैं बैग कौन सा लेके जाऊँगी? मैं 2 दिन जाना है, होगा या नहीं होगा? And eventually, I think even till date, एक तो कोई भी आपसे, now we have come to a part in our career when they offer you a project, they'll say कि अच्छा please madam बताएं budget कितना? We still don't know how to negotiate or know that, okay, how do I put a price or a budget to the worth and value I bring to the project. So no, I mean, you go with the flow, you make a lot of mistakes, you end up in doing projects where you realize that I could have asked for more money. You do all those things, and I think what helps is, just like you were mentioning offline to us, little bit of self-awareness, taking a breath and really going back to our feelings. मुझे ये भी realize हुआ कि whenever there'll be, एक तो हमारा माशरा में कहता है negative feelings are bad. If I'm having like a moment with myself where when I'm angry, I don't even know if I'm angry, I'm awkward, I'm embarrassed, I'm in pain, I'm sad, all my feelings are mixed together. All I know is कि negative feeling को ख़त्म करना है. Without experiencing that, and now I see all my feelings as signals, which are letting me know more about myself. And yes, there will be outside influences, but sooner or later, you have to come to a point in your life where you say, okay, I'm going to decide based on how this feels for me and how it affects me, not how it affects my parents, not how it affects the society. And that, I feel, is a very empowered place.
That is key, yeah. And that is empowerment, right? You empower yourself by doing that. Hamza?
I feel that in this day and age where your market or where your audience is not just Pakistan or not just our country, it's global now, and you get to see all these things from all over the world. It is very important as a professional to be more diversified and to be more accepting towards different kinds or different types, like for example bodies, body sizes, and being more accepting towards that. And I feel that it is important for us professionals or for institutions, education institutions, even parents at home, to teach their kids that they need to be more diversified, and to teach their kids to be more accepting towards odd things. What they think is odd is not really odd, and that everything is okay. So I mean, I feel that social media has really helped in that. Now people are more accepting about a lot of topics and issues, and at the same time it is also not that accepting. It has created images in people's heads, like we need to have more likes, we need to have more followers, and in that with all these filters and all these things that are available, or options that are available online, which I really don't know how to use. I'm really bad at it, but I feel that really doesn't show you who that person really is. And you've lost identity in that process. So that to me is not fair. But I feel that it is important that we become more accepting towards new things. So I feel that, it's okay. So it's good things and bad sides to something, as you know.
So, like you mentioned, body image.
Yes.
And I'm sure that no matter how evolved we all are, and I consider myself very evolved in a lot of things because that's my profession. I have to think about things differently. I have to think out of the box. I have to be able to accept a lot of things. But I think in our subconscious, there is always the fact that we need to look, be, and have a certain image that is presented to the world. And that may not always be authentic or in line with the values that we believe in. And so how do you feel media or your work is representing that you have to conform to certain images? Because when you are in front of the camera, when you're presenting yourselves as an artist or as a creative person, how much do you think about your own sense of self-worth that is connected to how you present yourselves and how you are looking? Yeah, please.
I'd be lying if I say that I feel comfortable agar mere baal sahi nahi bane ho, or mera makeup sahi nahi ho. So when you're going in front of the camera and you're very conscious of the fact that so many people are watching you. लेकिन मैं कभी दुबली नहीं थी, मैंने बहुत जिम किया, बहुत फाके किए to become the size 0 that the camera would be more appreciative of. And I think my biggest journey of self-acceptance was to say, Kecha, the way I am, I'll find my identity more in my intellect or my questions or what I add as a value. Initially, the ratio was something like 80-20. How I look would affect my performance, but then slowly and gradually that, the look part of it became 20% when it became, a back burner thought. I can tell you for one thing, if anybody who wants to be in media or even as a viewer, what you see on television is very different from what it is in real life. My mother, for example, she'd go and she'd like, आधे कपड़े जो मैंने पहने होते हैं, she'll turn around and she's like, ये कौन सी boutique के? I'm like, I picked it from Khadi. She's like, ये कपड़े हमें तो नहीं मिलते Khadi में. Because she's now seeing me wear it on camera. If you'd see the same clothes on the rack, sometimes you'd never pick it. My eye is now trained to now pick up clothes for the camera, and I'm sure my dear friends can also tell you here कि photography में चीज़ों में मुझे याद है मैं advertising कर रही थी. So there was this brand which was a Unilever brand, and the ambassador over there was Kajol, and she wears something in the ad. तो यहाँ पे हमें वो campaign चलाने को कह रहे थे कि ask people to send in their entries, and the lucky winner will get the joda from Kajol. I'm like, okay, it looked really nice on the ad as well. So once the joda arrived, I'm like, सुनो ये कोई नहीं लेगा, जिसको लेंगे वो मुंह पे मार के जाएगा, ये क्या कपड़े दिए. So what you see on camera is very different, and I think we get it firsthand as well. Half of the time when people look at me, she's like, आप तो देखने में तो काफी दुबली हैं. I'm like, ये दुखती रगे इस पे मत जाएं, जैसी हूँ वैसी हूँ.
I'll add on to this. I think आप इतने trained हो गए होते हैं ये करके, like for example, coming because I work with photography and all of that, and you know exactly आपको कौन से colors इस्तेमाल करने हैं, और अगर आप तस्वीरें ले रहे हैं कौन से चीज़ को कहाँ पे place करना है, because the picture is going to look nice and not because actually it's going to look nicer in reality. So I think as an artist too, you know, when like I dress up, I don't dress up as a typical artist, which I've been told so many times that, you know, I introduce myself to people and say like, hi, I'm a visual artist. They're like, you don't look like an artist. They're like, what does that even mean? I mean, but this is who I am. I like wearing blazer. I like wearing jeans and these loafers. That's me. I don't believe in कि एक किसी भी बंदे को एक certain तरीके से आपको वो करना ज़रूरी है, एक image के साथ कि जी ये बंदा ऐसे ही है. For example, you know, you can wear a hijab and something and not necessarily just be saying your namaz. You can always come on TV. You can always do something else too. आप cooking show पे जा सकते हैं, कुछ कर सकते हैं. So I don't think so कि society को पुश करना भी चाहिए लोगों को एक सर्टेन तरीके से तैयार होने के लिए, और मैं एज इंडिविजुअल वो करता भी नहीं हूँ. I don't practice it myself. I wear what I feel like wearing and I don't go by the norms के just because आप आर्टिस्ट हैं तो आप शलवार कमीज पहने या आप कोई आर्टसी फार्टसी से लगे. But this is who I am. I produce art. This is my work. This is me. So yeah.
I think that's true. It's very important that, you know, just like you were saying, that, you know, you order something and you get something else when it arrives. That is a very big problem these days, because I am crazy about online shopping. Whatever I see, I think, oh, order. And then when it arrives, I'm like, wow, what would this look something different? And that's a problem that we have, that, you know, with added lighting and filters and all of that, it looks all glitz and glam, but it's not really the same thing. So I feel that being more realistic in that is important. Ethical use of social media is important. I think ethics play an important role in that aspect. And yes, Ahmer is right that society should not make you change yourself. Rather, I feel that your work should show, like if I'm doing a house, every house should not look like my ad. It should not look like my showroom. It should show their personality. Yeah. It should be their vision. It should be their vision, but with my finesse. Yeah. That's how it should be. So it shouldn't be like, you know, like a lot of people, like in my industry, I'm not going to name anyone, but you know, you would go to every house they've done, it would look exactly the same. The same layout, same everything. But then I feel that then how am I a designer? Because then I didn't design anything. I just copy-pasted it from Pinterest. So that's not really right.
That's not creative.
That's not creative. So creativity is lost sometimes with the use of, you know, technology, I feel. And yet, again, I'm not saying anything bad about technology. I am generally not that tech savvy, so people think I'm really against technology. But it helps. Like, you know, we make 3D renderings all the time of every space that we do. And we try to keep it as realistic as possible. And, you know, we get, you know, when people see the 3Ds, they're like, wow, this looks amazing. But then we make sure that we don't make it so over the top that, and then we're not able to achieve that goal at the end when the real thing shows up. Because then we're like, ye kya hai? Because it doesn't look like that. So we try to make it as realistic as possible. Again, ethics are important in that.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I was thinking when we're talking about this topic is that how do we challenge these things to make them something that the youth, the future of our country, they look at these things that are being presented to them and give them a better version of whatever is happening. So how do we, all our societal or cultural norms that somehow are influencing us, how do we, as media artists, as people like yourselves who put your work out, what is it that you can do to make it easier for them to be more authentic, to be more realistic, because we are all talking about unrealistic images and body standards. How is it that you can, through your work, and media, of course, because media is such a powerful force, whether it's social media or digital print media, unfortunately not so much anymore, but how can we shape the direction and the future of the younger generation? How can we give them a healthier space to be in?
Can I say something?
Sure.
I think parents and your education sector plays a very important role in that. I feel if the youth is more aware of what is happening and aware of what is right and what is not right, and campaigns that can tell them that what is right and what is wrong, and shaping it in that way is going to help them understand that better. Because nowadays, like in my childhood, like, you know, people were bullied all the time and it was okay to bully, yeah, and now it's changing though, because I went through a lot of bullying when I was a child.
Hamza, honestly, it's not changing that much. Bullying is
Really?
bullying is still very much a major issue in schools across Pakistan.
But it's much better than before. Like I see my nieces all the time. So like, you know, if you even call someone fat, they're like, oh, that's so inappropriate. You can't say that. So I was like, you know, I was happy to see that kids are doing that, because in our olden days, like whether you're fat or you're too thin, you will be bullied anyways. So
if you don't conform to a certain standard,
yeah,
right?
it has to be, you know, you have to be Barbie perfect figure. That doesn't exist anymore. They're trying to change that. You see campaigns.
It does exist. It's just coming under, I think, that you are more aware that if you say it, that you're inappropriate. But I think the judgment still is very much underneath that proper etiquette.
And
So
that's
it's still
where
there.
and that's where professionals like us come in place, where we, if it's a fashion house, if they start getting models that are of different sizes and showing people that it's okay to be, you know, like that, then people also change their minds that this is more acceptable now. If we show spaces that are not so unrealistically done and more utility based and are not just so proper that you can't even sit in that chair properly, then that's how you're going to show people. So us as professionals, it's our job to start showing things that are more realistic, to make the youth realize that it's okay to, you know, not have a castle. It's okay to just have a normal house that is not that big. It's okay to just have a regular couch, not have, you know, raw silk on it or any expensive fabric on it. And it's okay for it to be untidy sometimes. Every house cannot be so tidy, or every person cannot be, you know, size 0. So we have to play an important role in that by showing that other types of things and not just a picture perfect thing.
I'll add on to Hamza is education institutions actually play a vital role, because that's where the basic education or upbringing of a child is. But I think individually, like all the grown-ups like myself, if everyone is doing their own part to make a little change, I think that will go a long way. I'll give one example of my own paintings. Like I paint on a specific topic, and that's true to me and true to the society. And every time I do a show, I speak about it openly to the audience, and my work is being published nationally and internationally too, and I speak about these topics very, very openly and candidly. So that's my medium of like pushing the envelope forward in the society. So after me, the new generation will come. At least they would have picked up, if not two, at least one point from it, and make things a little better for the new generation. So I think if everyone's doing their little tiny part wherever they are, we'll go a long way.
I think there are several ways to be authentic. I mean, kudos to both of you when you say that you would like your work to really shine your own soul through it, right? And no matter what the trend might be, no matter how much critique you get, you put it out there. But if you ask me, how can we actually guide young people? I see the whole nation to be in a pedestal syndrome, Iram. And by what I mean by that is that everybody is perfect. Why do you think our talk shows and our conversations are so boring? Because everybody is so binary, bland. Everybody is vying to be the perfect person. हमने कुछ गलत नहीं किया. हमने कभी, we don't even have a nasty or naughty opinion about somebody. You know, हम gossip में उसको ले जाते हैं. मैं नहीं. Politically correct हमने हर वक्त होना है. We all have to be white. We all have to be pure. And what it is doing is,
Here, but if someone is not being politically correct, will it be aired?
No, by that I mean, okay, fine, don't sling mud at other people. What I meant was...
Other people, I'm just saying, if I need to say something openly about things which are not morally or socially acceptable, will that be aired? Because I've had that problem. There have been times when my work has not been published because the work was taboo, apparently, according to the social norms. It was not published. I was not made part of a show, art show, because the work was not morally acceptable. All I had to do was just remove one name or changed it with something else, and then it was fantastic. It was part of the show. So I think most of the times, why people...
I hear you, but just to finish on my thought, what I meant was usually we come out and we present a picture perfect image. I don't want to talk about my failures. I don't want to tell you about the time when I have stumbled and fallen on my face. And you do that in your capacities as well. हम अपने बच्चों को बताते हैं, जब हम तुम्हारी उम्र के थे तो हम बहुत पढ़ाई करते थे, हम सारे grades A लेके आते थे, which is not true. God help you when your child gets his hand on your report card. Yes. So, you know, I mean, so we are all trying to be so perfect. कि हम जब तुम्हारी उम्र के थे, हमने कभी बंक नहीं किया, हमने कभी डेट नहीं मारी, हमने कभी छुप के कभी वो काम नहीं किया जो पेरेंट्स ने कहा था कि नहीं करना है. So I mean, when we are trying to be so perfect, we are pitching our children up for failure because you don't tell them how to handle failure. बताते ही नहीं है कि अगर गलती हो जाए तो क्या करना है. गलती हो जाए, so you go into this cycle of shame and guilt. You think of yourself as imperfect, you hide rather than come out and correct it.
Yes, and I think that's a very important point that you brought up, Sidra, is that the pedestal thing that you're talking about, that we are always looking to an ideal. Look at our political leaders also. Look at anything in our country. We're always wanting them to be completely perfect. But they're human. They have feet of clay. So they are not going to be exactly who you want them to be. Look at what we've done to Muhammad Ali Jinnah. We've made him Qaid-e-Azam. We've whitewashed a lot of the stuff that was inappropriate, and we put him in his Jinnah cap, and we only project him a certain way. He was a living, breathing human being. He had lots of different facets to his personality, but we don't talk about that. We don't talk about the reality of anybody because we always want to project the ideal. And you're absolutely right, as educationists, I think there is a great burden that we bear in challenging this. But I think what we all need to do is challenge and unlearn a lot of our values and belief system. And that's where the tricky part comes in, because it again relates to your self-awareness and knowing how you were impacted by all these things when you were a child. What was appropriate at that time may not be appropriate for what's happening now, and how do you change that narrative? Because first you have to accept that something is not right. I train teachers, and when I'm training teachers, that's one of the questions that one of the teachers asked me very recently at the training is, why can't we have a bad day in school? And I told them that, why can't you not have a bad day in school? What you can do is normalize, like you were talking about earlier about emotion, Sidra, is that you go in and you tell the students, I'm not having a great day. It's not the best day for me to be completely present with you. Let's talk about how do you feel when you're having a bad day. What happens to us? Our responses are not the same. We are not as present because we are still with whatever's bothering us. So we are not being able to perform 100%. But who performs 100% every day? So why do we like you're saying, why do we set ourselves up for failure? We set ourselves up for failure when we are always trying to be that person. So again, how do we use all of this thing that we are talking about here to shift and change the narrative? So how is it that we're talking about through art, you're talking about through media, but Sidra, what is it that the media actually talks about? Does it talk about realistic, being authentic, challenging your values and beliefs, being something that is not conforming?
I think now we are opening up those conversations. Honestly, I was very happy to see some of the new age dramas and storylines with the very delicate nuances. I'm recently watching this thing about narcissistic abuse, and it really talks about how insidious it can be within a marriage. And I'm liking even the concepts of Mairi. I spoke about that in Shehbaz's, with Ali Khan yesterday as well. So I feel we are kind of trying to push the boundaries, and we are bringing in these issues in the verbatim. But to really answer your question, I think हम सबका एक trial and error तो होगा, Iram. There are times where we will feel that we are perfect, and there will be times when we will not feel perfect. Like, just like you mentioned, I've been doing my morning show for 5 years. Sometimes when I'm starting my show at 9, I know it's not going to be a great show. I just have to make it past it. So I'm doing like 10 minutes at a time. And even my team can tell. I have this formula now, which is like CAMP. So CAMP is like KAMP, which is like kick-ass maram patti. So firstly, I'll just explode, and I'll be like a really, devil-based Prada kind of a boss where they can tell I have not slept well and I'm just exploding. And then right after the show, when I calm down, I do the maram patti, and I think that everybody's okay. So now they know my process, but I think it's a fantastic idea to be able to have that trust. I think what you nailed with is, हम self को तब तक accept नहीं कर सकते Iram जब तक we are not okay with being vulnerable. I think what really takes us away from being authentic is we are not ready to show anyone, even the people we love, be it be our parents, be it be our spouse, कि हम vulnerable हैं. इस वक्त हमें आपकी ज़रूरत है. And I do not believe in this new age wokeness where people are saying, oh, I need to be self-sufficient. I'll be insular. मुझे किसी की ज़रूरत नहीं है. मैं अपने लिए काफ़ी हूँ. It's not possible. Yeah.
We need each other, and that's that basic primal human need is to belong, right? That's the connection.
You need to belong into a society, and a society doesn't just comprise of individuals. It is on a whole a culture that you have to be a part of, and I feel that unrealistic standards when are set, be it through media or through your fellow the humans around you, be it your family or the education system you go in, it is important that you be more accepting towards whoever that person is, be it their physical being or be it what they do. And just like you said that, my parents were like that to me all the time. How did that person get better grades than you? Like, no matter how many A's you would get, why did he get more A's than you did? So that becomes, it's difficult for the kids.
And the flip side to that is everything they want to say no to, sab kuएं में कूदेंगे तो तुम भी कूदोगे क्या?
Yeah.
And like, which part of this do you want me to follow as a Bible?
And if you
my parents were very accepting because my parents were like, pass ho gayo na bas baki kya hai.
I wish I had those parents.
They were like, pass ho gayo.
And so that works, but some parents, my parents were always like, Acha, you've done this, Acha, now, I was like, finally I've done something, they were like, Acha, now, the next thing is you do this. So it was always the next thing that you had to do. So I feel that takes a toll on the youth, because that, you should not pressure your kids that much, because I was supposed to go into banking, but then I ended up becoming an interior designer. You're going to a different direction. But what social media and all this has done is it has also opened up a lot of different venues or different genres where people can go into. Like, I come from a conservative family. I could have never thought of becoming an interior designer. When I first told my mother, she said, is that even a profession? What are you even talking about? Like, tumhe bahar padhne bheja tha, ban ke aao tum tarkhan? That's not going to work. So now that is, people are more open to it because they can see how successful people are. Like, you can see through media how a person can actually be a successful interior designer. People see them as their mentors. People have, makeup artists like online that they follow them like crazy, like Jeffree Stark, and all my nieces are crazy about that person. But and how did they come? They just sit at home and do makeup in front of a mirror. And they're just able to show that to 1 billion people. That, I think, is fantastic, that now you have an audience that is, it's infinite. Like, you can have so many possibilities. You can become something out of nothing. And that, I think, is fabulous. That, I think, technology has really, really helped us with that.
Very true. Very true. But I like something that you said at the beginning of your conversation when you said we need to be accepting of others. but I think we can't be accepting of others unless we accept ourselves.
That's
Right? So it has to begin with you. And I think we struggle with that because there are parts of us which we feel are not presentable, which we in our work call shadow work, which is something that wherever your shame or guilt lies, you want to do a whitewash over that or protect that. So I think acceptance begins from accepting all those parts of yourself that you don't always feel are conforming.
I feel for that therapy is very important. And in our country, people think that going to a therapist means I'm a pagal. I'm not mad, but I think it is very important that our future generations should understand that therapy is important for everyone.
Thank you.
No matter what happens. And I feel it because every person, you cannot be perfect. Every person
There is no perfection.
Everyone has underlying issues. And
Yes.
by hiding them or suppressing them, you just not doing the right thing, and it comes out in one way or the other, and we all are imperfect human beings.
Yes.
We cannot be perfect, and therapy is going to help.
Thank
So
you,
please,
yes.
everyone should go to therapy.
You should hire Hamza for your PR.
Yeah, please, Hamza, yes, we'll talk later.
I go to therapy. I go to therapy because I have not one but many coaches. I believe that you should always go to an expert if you need to sort people out and never be afraid of going to someone better than you. I have a business coach. I was trying to launch into a new area of business which was very new to me, which is digital content. So I have a coach for that. And then while I was making all these decisions, I realized I have a decision paralysis. I was always looking at options and not really making a decision. That's when I went to a therapist and I wanted to find out what's happening.
Another thing I would like to add is when you said you had all these choices, that's another problem with Pinterest especially, or any other apps that you go on. Okay, I want to do my interiors. Oh, this is good. No, this is good. No, this is good. You have so many options now
yes.
that it gives you decision paralysis. And
It's because it's overwhelming. When you
Yes.
have the more choices you have, the more overwhelming it
Yes.
gets, unless you know yourself and you know this is the path I want to go down on, so then you can narrow those choices and curate them for yourself.
And that's where professionals come in help. Like if you go to a
Yes.
professional, they
No,
can just show you what you want.
I thought it was me feeling overwhelmed, Iram, but when I spent some time in therapy and I spoke to this person, I tried, you know what the therapist does for you is they try to figure out a pattern. And the pattern that I was living in was I would go and look at various options because I was actually fearful of what the outcome of a decision might be. So I had somewhere in my subconscious internalized that I make bad decisions. And therefore my therapist had to first work with me and saying, no decision is worse than bad decision. So please make a decision and you'll know.
Is bad. No decision is always going to be also a choice.
Yes.
You're choosing to stay in that stuck place. Yeah. Okay, we have to go to our question and answer. So the first question from the audience is, can you provide specific examples of how evolving media representations from traditional to digital platforms have influenced societal standards of beauty and body ideals? Who would like to have a crack at it?
I
Sidra.
think what it has done is, especially when you have evolving media landscape, it has allowed for representation. And when you have representation, people can actually correct you and say, okay, this is not who I am. For example, we often talk about how Pakistanis are able to distinguish between various English accents, but they see us as all one homogeneous brown community. But we are guilty of the same when we look at people with the Chinese features or people from Africa. So once you have representation, once you start having exposure, that gets corrected, which to me is fantastic because then you start appreciating them as well. You understand that there are various facets and various ways of being beautiful.
Yeah, I'd like to add on that. It's what she said is right, that through digital platforms and all these different forms of media that we have now, I think the choices or you can say everything has become more diversified, and like even body sizes or acceptance towards body sizes has become more acceptable because of all these digital media platforms.
Yeah.
And at the same time, then again, it has its shortfalls, obviously, because then all these filters and all these apps that you use now, it has really also set wrong standards for us to believe, because we always say, oh my God, she's so beautiful, oh my God, he looks so good, or the space looks so amazing. That's not really true. That's
I
not.
think part of us knows that's not true,
Yeah.
but sees it as something that we all aspire to, that we want that Korean glass skin.
Yes.
Or look, not a hair is out of place. Like my daughter was fixing my hair to the last second. It's like you don't want, when you're on camera in front of people, for something to go wrong. But in real life, it is not going to be that glass skin or that perfectly blow-dried hair.
Yeah, all these influencers, I mean, their real life, I think, is very different from what they show. It's
Absolutely.
completely different. And that's what I feel, that then you have basically now two lives. And that's what media has done now. You have a life
Online
in the metaverse,
presence. Yes.
and then you have a real
Yes.
life. And
Yes.
the metaverse, you're a different person altogether. That's why you have NFTs now. You buy art in the metaverse. You have everything in the metaverse. So we have now avatars, basically. So that's your avatar, and then you have your real person. So you actually become a confused person at the end of the day. Who am I really?
Hamza, as a therapist, I think that's very disturbing, because what happens is that the mask that you're wearing
Yeah.
becomes fused with your own self-identity, and then you
Yes.
can't separate the two. You don't know when that mask ends and where you begin. So I
Exactly.
think that is one of the dangers of being on and curating your feed to look like a certain way, is that your sense of reality is
Do you
distorted.
think that becomes your personality ultimately, because you're so complex and confused, and everything that becomes a new personality, and then you don't even know if this is actually you or not?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It becomes very difficult to separate yourself from who you want to project.
Yeah.
And then it's very exhausting, because then you're trying to live up to something that you're actually
True.
not. So
True.
again, you're moving away from being authentic.
Yeah.
The next question is, can you provide examples or initiatives or best practices that have successfully promoted inclusivity and respect for all body types and self-identities?
I think I'll take up that
Sure.
question. While growing up, I was always told, like, body-wise, I was a skinny child and a black child. हमारी society के अंदर ये बहुत होता है, गोरा काला and सब कुछ. I was grown up as like a, तुम बहुत काले हो, बहुत पतले हो, ये है वो है. So I think gradually it took a toll on me, and I started like becoming a racist, कह लो. Like I was basically projecting the same thing on other people too, like अच्छा ये काला है, ये गोरा है, ये वो है. Then I realized that this is not right. Because if this is affecting me, then this naturally is affecting other people too. Then I started training myself gradually. It's okay. It's okay if you have a dark skin. It's okay if you're fat, if you're thin. Even right now, I go to the gym and मुझे खुद से समझ नहीं आती, like what does that even mean? In one day, one guy at the gym, my gym fellow would say like, oh यार तुम बड़े fit लग रहे हो. The very next guy would like, तुम्हारा पेट निकला है थोड़ा सा. And then it's like am I fat, am I fit, or like कोई कहेगा कमजोर लग रहे हो, तुम जिम नहीं जा रहे हो. And then it's just 1 hour, and then you don't know what to do. And so coming back to the thing is like I have self-trained myself to be more accepting of people with different backgrounds, different color tones, different body shapes, and I think gradually that projects more on other people. So that's what
Can I say something? I think a good example or an initiative of this would be like companies like Fair and Lovely. They changed their name to Glow and Lovely, and that I think is a
Same thing, different market.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But see, being fair, that's just not right to just call someone more fair, or what they did was
But the underlying message is still the same, Hamza.
exactly.
It's
That's
still
true,
the same,
that's
right?
True. But
Yeah.
they did something morally right. I mean, ethically right, because that was. I mean, they didn't want to say that you become more fair. That you just glow. So I think.
And only fair skins glow and darker skin tones don't glow?
Yeah, that's true. But at least they tried. So I said initiatives like that can help. Yeah, they can just, they can help. So I feel that if more people are more aware of certain things like that do not call someone black, or do not call someone, fat, or that'll help. It'll just be more accepting, be more aware of these things that are sensitive issues in society.
I agree with that, but I feel that doing it at a superficial level sometimes does a disservice. And we have to go deeper to actually change these narratives.
And you have to become more sensitive, I feel. Sensitive to
Yes.
others
Yes.
and how they would feel about it.
Absolutely. Sidra, would you think of anything in media which would, any kind of initiatives that the media has taken in this?
I actually am a big believer of that wide range of neurodiversity that we now have. I work very closely with the Karachi Down Syndrome program. So for me, it was very, very heartwarming to see people with special needs walk the ramp at times, where they come out and they actually feel included. And you can just see the joy they have in their eyes. And I know of a girl who's recently graduated from the Karachi Down Syndrome program, and she opened up her own little coffee place, and everybody showed up for that. So I think mainstreaming people that way really, really helps. It makes them feel appreciated.
But nothing in the media that's really addressed it, like in a news program, would you ever talk about these things?
Well, I think there's a lot of conversation around that for sure. And if you look at all these fast fashion brands that we now have, like, if I am allowed to name, like Khadi, like Ethnic, I love the fact that now their catalogs don't have size 0 models only. They have real women with weight issues, who can be of all sizes, and they show you. And I like, it has to begin somewhere. We've had centuries of colorism, of body shaming. So at least it begins with putting that disclaimer that, okay, my model is a 5'4" height model, and she's wearing a medium. And just putting that on, I think it's giving a lot of women the confidence and the courage to go out and look at those brands. And I think that's a shift. It's a powerful shift.
Absolutely, it's a very powerful shift. It is.
But I feel that our media channels, especially TV channels, like you put them on, all you see is aaj itne log mar gaye, so many people died, explosion here, strike there. It just portrays our country especially in a very bad way to the rest of the world. And I feel that if we start showing people things like this, like I didn't know about this, that we are helping people with Down syndrome, or there are things happening in the society like that. If we show that more often on news channels, I think that would encourage such practices even more. But I feel that our news channels only show what's bad happening in the country, and nothing ever that would actually be something good and could do good to the country.
Absolutely, I do. I think that's a fair criticism of the media, because that's what, even in print media, or if you read newspapers or if you look at the news, it's always something negative that catches the eye. And I think it's not only here, it's worldwide. It's because it sells. It's something that is catchy and you want that. Yeah. But we can perhaps shift it towards something that positive things are taking place, like you talked about the Down syndrome children and doing their work. So, okay, so I think this is the last question. Do you think media is a weapon used by influential organizations to tame your mind in a particular way? I don't know if it's taming, but it's directing.
Media and our discourse has been an engine for propaganda from time immemorial. Like even when you didn't have newspaper, even when you didn't have television, if you look at the Roman Empire or every big empire of the world, they would have their own ways of disseminating a certain narrative. And you are bound to react to that. The problem with us is, A, the news is very readily available, but we were in a habit initially, because we all had analog childhoods, to look at the newspaper, to look at the television. We thought it has passed that factory of editorial, and what you're getting is credible, authentic information. But, again, it's debatable how authentic newspapers used to be at that time as well. There was censorship all over, or the state would have its own mechanisms. But today, I think fakes and deep fakes are very much a reality. And unfortunately or fortunately, what you watch and spend more time to, the AI learns the algorithm to it. So for example, if you have a certain you have a certain angle on the present conflict in Gaza, you and I sitting here in Pakistan would probably be getting a lot more of the Palestinian version of the argument. Whereas if I was to be living in Canada or London at this point in time, what I'd be getting more would be the Israeli side of the story. So I think that's a battle that is going to continue, I believe.
No, I think I was getting a lot of the Israeli side of the story, but I chose to unfollow.
So when you start watching, it feeds you more.
So again, it's something that you can control. You know, you have
In
social
some
media
ways you
or
can.
media, you can again discern. If you are self-aware, you can discern what is right and what is wrong, and what aligns with your values and what doesn't.
I think we are so particular about what we put in our bodies in terms of nutrition, right?
Yes.
And there is a reason why most of this is called a news feed, because it's
Yes.
feeding your
Yes,
mind.
absolutely.
So whatever you're watching, even if you're giving 5 seconds of your attention, be mindful and treat your social media work or social media time as a vision board. Only give your attention to what you'd like to bring in your life or grow in your life, and I think that's a good rule to have.
It is. It's wonderful if you can curate it to that way. Any last thoughts, Hamza?
I was just going to say that, you know, it's really interesting how, sometimes you'll say something, and few minutes, like if you say that I want to go to Maldives, for example, and you start looking at your phone and you start getting ads from Maldives, and so your phone's here. So technology is actually taking over our lives completely, because they know what the trends are, what you like, what you don't like, and then it tweaks and turns you to actually buy products accordingly. So that is, as you said, you have to make your own choices towards things or what you see, and then behave accordingly. So yeah, personal choices are very important. You have to stick to your culture, and you have to keep in mind what your traditions are, see which society you live in, and then choose technology accordingly.
Absolutely. I think being aware of your context is very, very
Yes.
important. Sidra?
My final thought to everyone would be, please tell yourselves that you love yourself, and the kindness that you extend to people when they make a mistake or there's a shortcoming or they've made a blunder, you extend that kindness with so much generosity. I believe you deserve a bit of that yourself too. And even when you're not feeling your 100%, no, it's okay, and give yourself that grace mark.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Ahmer?
So my final thought would be that every picture has two stories. So never fall for what you see, because what you see here is not Ahmer Farooq. There's way more to Ahmer Farooq than whatever you see. So it's always dig in a little more, use your brain, read a little. Yeah, that's
Open
it.
your minds.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Hamza, Sidra, and Ahmer, for a very interesting
having us.
discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.